Hello, world history. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. This past Saturday, we had an extra hour. We did fall back for the time change for daylight saving time. And so we got an extra hour. Hope you enjoyed your hour. Maybe you went trick-or-treating. Maybe you hung out with some friends or family. Maybe it was just a regular Saturday and you got an extra hour. But hope you enjoyed having your extra hour. And now at night, it's going to get dark at 4 o'clock and it's going to feel like 10 o'clock at 6 o'clock. And so that's one of the drawbacks of falling back. But hope you enjoyed your extra hour. It was good to have that extra hour on Saturday. But hope you had a good week last week as we learned online. We're going to be learning online this week. And, last week, what you read about and learned about was about Japan. You learned about the geography of Japan, the early history of Japan, the medieval history, and different terms that the Japanese, have for different things in their culture. Well, this week, what we're going to be learning out is about Korea and Southeast Asia. And I'm going to be sharing with you today just a few, interesting things about each of those areas and sets of, land. Well, we're going to start with Korea first. The Koreans are very similar to China and Japan. Ethnically, there we go, I got it right, and culturally. Both China and Japan have dominated Korea over the past, few centuries. Now, recently, Korea, more stands on its own, and those two are not a threat to Korea, but, through history, those two have really ruled over and taken over Korea. Korean history began in 108 BC. So it wasn't until 108 BC, just 108 years before Christ was born, that they started to have recorded history. So there's not too much before that there's on, Korea. Buddhism is the main religion in Korea, and that came from China. I'm going to talk to you right now about those who ruled over Korea throughout the centuries. Well, the Chinese ruled over them for a number of years, and then AD 313, Korean warlords ruled, and they really ruled a long time from AD 13 until 1259. So you got about 900 and something years that they ruled. It was just Korean warlords. Well, in 1259, you had Kublai Khan, and he was the leader of the Mongols. And they ruled for about, little less than 200 years. And then after them, Korea actually had freedom and was independent for 200 years. And then in the 1630s, Manchu Empire of Japan took over. And so before that, so say about 1430, something like that, for 200 years, they had independence. But then Manchu came over and took them over and ruled for a number of years. Well, before the 20th century, China definitely influenced and really just really had some control over Korea. And then in 1910, Japan influenced Korea. And then, of course, you look later on in the 20th century, Korea really established themselves. And then you have the Korean War where the United States got involved and all that. So, but Korea is now, has its own, government. It's really like communist and, have Kim Jong-un as their ruler now. And so, but that's a little bit of history about Korea. Southeast Asia is our next set of, next topic we're going to be learning about today. And there are 10 independent nations that make up Southeast Asia. And you could obviously say these nations, but if you're just talking about that general area, it's Southeast Asia. And the 10 nations are as follows: Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Brunei. So these are 10 nations that really make up Southeast Asia. These nations are related to India and China in that they're ethnically like that, like those two countries, and culturally like those two countries. Buddhism and Islam are the primary religions for those countries. Now, there are, of course, missionaries, Christian missionaries, that go and share Jesus with these people in these countries. And some of those countries, they are communists, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment, but they aren't able to openly share Jesus as far as openly. Now, they're able to do it in underground churches. They're able to do it and, enclosed, buildings and everything, but they can't just openly share Jesus as we do in our country. And so whenever someone, say, goes to that area in Southeast Asia, they say, I'm going to Southeast Asia, because if you give any, full details, if somehow their government or someone finds out and they report it to the government, those Christians could be thrown into prison, could be, be persecuted very heavily. And so whenever someone, as a missionary, Christian missionary, goes to those areas, they say Southeast Asia, because they don't want exposure possibly to the government, or it could lead up to the government. And so that's why they say Southeast Asia. And then later when they come back, they say, hey, I went to Malaysia. Hey, I went to the Philippines. Now, some countries, they are able to say in those areas, but some of them, they are not. Communism really has been evident in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And so if they were going to one of those countries, they may be like, hey, I'm going to Southeast Asia. And then when they come back, hey, I went to Laos, or I went to Cambodia, or Vietnam, and this is what I did there. But like I said, they don't share that before. But socialism is found in Myanmar and Indonesia. I know Indonesia, sometimes they can share, if they're going there or not. But in Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines, people do have some freedom there. They're more a monarchy or a democratic republic, or a republic kind of like what we have, or something similar to what we have, and maybe similar to how it is in like England. And so in those countries, they are able to share more. And so if a Christian missionary went there, they would be able to say, hey, I'm going to the Philippines, I'm going to Malaysia. Where if they were going to, say, Vietnam or Cambodia, maybe Indonesia, they wouldn't be able to share that. And so, but that's a little bit of history of Korea and the Southeast Asia, the 10 nations in Southeast Asia. And for this week, your assignment is on page 44 in your book. It's section 3, review. It's only 5 questions. I want you to write the answers in complete sentences. Most of it is more about the beginning of the section. And so it's more about Japan and, questions regarding about their history and different things in that. And so your facts that you had, that you did this past week, you can use those for that. They may help you. Of course, you can look in the section, but you just do 1 through 5. There is 3 identifiers. You don't have to do the identifiers on the section review, just the 5 questions, answering complete sentences. And also, this assignment is due this Friday, and it'll be due at 5 o'clock once again, 5 o'clock. Most of you all did well turning in your work, so I'm proud of you. Thank you for turning your work on time and getting it done. And this Friday, once again, will be turned in 5 o'clock. You could send me a picture of the assignment. A lot of you did that. You can, turn it in to my email, bryce.vigas@gmail.com, or you can send it as an attachment on Schoolworks, whatever you prefer. But that is your assignment this week. Those 5 questions for section 3 review, and just those, not the identify. If you have any questions, you can always text me or call me or email me. I'm available to help. But I hope you enjoy, learning more about our world history. and I hope you have a good week.